Welcome to Beth's Happy Home. You probably have some concerns about how you would be cooking in an emergency. And I've done a lot of research and figured out that I think propane is the best, and I'll quickly give you 3 reasons why. The first, it's very readily accessible. You can buy it at farm stores, you can buy it at gas stations, and if you don't have those sources handy, you can always do the trade-in at the grocery store where you pay more, but you just trade the tank for a filled one. The second reason is that you're used to using it. If you have a gas grill, it's not going to be scary to be using an unfamiliar fuel. And third, it doesn't deteriorate. When stored in these types of containers, which is the only way it is stored, it will last for many years and be exactly the same as it was when it went in, and that's not true of gasoline that you might be storing to run your generator. So it is a superior alternative for that reason to planning to use a generator. So I'm going to give you 3 important ratios that you need to know in order to figure out how to store the fuel that you're going to be storing. And I'm assuming that you are going to be planning for a more long-term event. And so this is what the first question is: how much do you need? And that ratio is really easy to remember. And it's based on cooking beans and lentils and pancakes and things like that that you are going to be using from your storage. Now, if you're using something that is just dehydrated and you're just going to add hot water, it will be much less, by about, you'll only use about 20% as much as you would if you're cooking them from the dry, raw stage. So, but the ratio is this: 1 ounce of propane per adult per day. So the second ratio that you need to know is that each tank only can be filled to about 75% of its capacity, because there's always a gas bubble in the top. And so this is a 20-pound tank, and this is the typical size that you buy for a gas grill. And as you're planning for the size of tanks that you're going to be using, allow that it's only going to actually hold about 75%. Now, there can be some leeway in that also, but that's a good rule of thumb. Now, the third ratio is that the propane is sold by the gallon, but it is measured by the pound. So this is a 20-pound tank, and about 4 pounds of propane per gallon. To fill this tank, it's going to accept about 4 gallons of propane, and it's going to cost about $16. And if you go and trade it in, you're going to get something more like this. And so you can figure out a pound has 16 ounces in it. So that's the way you can figure out the math. You're going to need some special equipment to use propane for cooking on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you're doing camping, you can get a stand that holds a tank like this, and a little stove this is just a rocket stove or a pocket stove, and it comes like this, and then it fans out. But if you're going to use one of these with propane, you need this adapter, and so you'll have to buy this separately so that you can attach it to the propane can. These little stoves are designed to be used with a mix of propane and butane, but they can burn with just propane perfectly well with the adapter. But for day-to-day cooking, it's going to be much safer and much easier if you have a little stove like this. This one is a dual fuel one, and I'll put the link in the description of the video. It costs about $30. And you're going to also need a few of these, and this is just a 1-pound tank, of propane, but the reason that you need this is because this is the size that attaches to this. And so you're going to need to refill these from your larger tank. And the reason that you need a few of them, not just one, is that I am told, and I've never had this happen, but that if you refill them several times, they begin to leak. The valves don't last forever. And then you're going to also need a bigger tank, just because for practical purposes it's much less expensive to buy it from a gas station than it is to buy it in the individual tanks. But in order to refill this, you're going to need an adapter. And this adapter is, this is the male part. It screws in like that. And then this will screw into that. But you have to flip this upside down. And so in order to get the liquid off the bottom and not the gas that's on the top, you want to refill it with the liquid propane. I recently bought this 100-pound tank for propane and had it filled. It only accepted 18 gallons, and so that, and with the ratio being about 4.1, it came to about 75 pounds. So there again, that ratio holds true, that you only get about 100, from a 100-pound tank you get about 75 pounds, and the 20-pound gives you about 15. So it's about 4.5 feet tall. It has a circumference of about 16 inches, I would say. It has the same kind of a valve that the smaller tanks have. It does have this little bleed valve here, so that as the tank is being filled, they can bleed off some of the gas and fill it up with liquid a little bit higher. But the fellow that was doing it was not too confident in that process, and so we only ended up with 75 pounds in the 100 tank. But it could be filled better, I think, by someone with a little bit more experience. So if you have any questions, be sure to put them in the comments and I will either answer it or I will find out for you. Or if you have experience with using propane long term, let us know, and that will be helpful to everyone in the audience. So I have lots of things cooking for a Provident homemaker. Come again soon.